Hey, I'm Steve Arendt, and this is the Better Lives, Better Business podcast, where we do the deep work and the hard work together. The hard work of building better businesses that foster better lives, and the deep work of discovering the values that our business is meant to serve. Let's dig in. Hey, Steve Arendt here. I'm very excited that you've decided to join us again for another episode. Today we're going to focus on time. Specifically, what most people call time management, and why I don't like that. I don't like time management because time is finite, and most importantly, we don't know how much time we've got. I don't think we should manage our time. I think we should manage our productivity. In today's episode, we're going to talk about time as a finite resource. We're going to talk about the value of productivity, and we're going to talk about energy management instead of time management. If we take a look at time as a finite resource, it really does take us back in a moment of reflection. Because at the end of the day, we're all on this earth and every one of us is going to die. We just don't know when. So that makes our time even more precious. I could get done with reading this podcast to you and keel over dead right now. I don't know what's going to happen next. But I do know for sure in this reflection, it's probably best that I produce the best I can with the time that I do have. And equally important, I dive into what productivity means for me. Because at the end of my life, my legacy is the ultimate measure of how I spent my time. I'm going to share a little story with you that happened when I was in my late teens in college. A good friend of mine, his dad was a factory worker and a farmer, and he passed away. The same day, a gentleman passed away on the national stage who had turned around a major corporation in our United States. So I watched what happened the next following days. I went to the funeral for this farmer. The funeral home had to stay open literally 3 days long to accommodate the crowds of people that came in to be with the family. I'd never been to such a big funeral or wake. It was unbelievable for this meager farmer, but he spent his time in relationship with other people. And at the same time, I was reading the headlines about this CEO that had passed away and turned this major corporation around. The headlines talked about what kind of a good job he had done for that corporation and the people that were a part of that corporation, but it also focused very quickly on who's going to replace him because he died suddenly. And there was no follow-up plan for that person to be replaced. And I thought that's quite a different legacy. Both of those people left quite a different legacy. And I'm not saying one's right or one's wrong, but I do know that when I spent time with the farmer and his family, the wake there was very much focused on relationships that he had built throughout the years, not so much how much money he made or what kind of company that he built. And that was quite a different feel for a legacy to be left. When we talk about the legacy of the person that turned that corporation around, we all often focus on things like time is money. And traditionally that means that the more we produce with every minute that we've got, the more money that we'll make. And that's probably true. But money also is a vehicle to store time. We work hard to pay for services later. I mean, that can come out in so many different ways. So let's take a look at it in terms of making money now so that we can have personal fulfillment later. I may decide that I want to work really hard this year so that next year I can take my family on a once-in-a-lifetime vacation. So what am I doing in this relationship with time and money? Basically what I'm doing is I'm working really hard, not spending any time with my family this year, so that next year when I take my family on this vacation, I can trade the dollars that I made for other people's time serving us on this vacation. We're going to walk into the hotel, and there are a bunch of people that manage that hotel and keep it clean. So we're going to pay for their time so that we can spend time in their hotel. We're going to pay for time of the people that produce the gasoline so we can drive the car down the road on our vacation, and so forth and so on. So we're just trading our dollars that were in the previous year so that other people can serve us as I spend high quality time with my family on this vacation. So it's something to take a look at, trading this money for time. There's no wrong answer in it, but understanding that when we do trade our money for time, we also have to take a look at what it means for productivity. I think it's really important when we take a look at productivity that we go back to a rule that I've talked about in the past podcast, the 80-20 rule, where 20% of our efforts yield 80% of our results. I know as a small business owner, it's really easy to run around in circles and feel like the world is on fire and you're going to spend your time just kind of putting out the next fire. But if we can back off of that mentality for a minute and do a little self-reflection and ask ourselves, what are we awesome at? Every one of us has got something that we're awesome at, or a handful of things, and those things are different for each one of us. So by asking ourselves what we're awesome at, we're inherently asking ourselves, how are we most productive in our day's time? So once we understand that those actions and those activities that come natural to us, we're also going to understand that most likely those activities are our highest value activities. Those are the things that are going to bring us the most amount of money if we're working in our business that we can then use to exchange for time later. We're going to learn how to do things like delegate. We're going to delegate those things that we're not good at so that we can spend most of our time in those high value activities. I think also when we take a look at productivity, we want to take a look at how we manage time. And I told you in the beginning, I really don't like that word, time management. I can tell you that I've spent a fair amount of my life with a calendar in my hand and just jamming every moment of waking moment that I've got full of activity, only to be very tired at the end of the day. But that didn't really work out well for me. I wasn't able to spend quality time with my family, my friends. I really wasn't highly productive at my business. It wasn't until a friend of mine challenged me a little bit and said, Steve, stop using time management. Instead, you might want to take a look at energy management because you're that type of a person. And I realized I was that type of a person. I was more suited to manage my energy. What does that mean? I realized when I stopped and did some self-reflection here, I very often can get more done in 1 or 2 hours than I did the whole previous day. I did that because I spent those 1 or 2 hours doing things that I was awesome at, doing things that I really liked to do. Some people call this flow. If you're an athlete and you're out there doing what you're great at, very often you get in the zone. It's called the flow or the zone. You think of nothing else but exactly what you're doing, and you get really freaking good at it. I like to run, and when I get in the zone, the miles just fly by. I wake up and somehow 5 miles have gone by. It's unbelievable. So energy management is the same way. How can I spend my time in the best energy or in my zone, in my focus, so that I can be highly productive? Which leads us to the next thing. We do have a finite amount of time in our life. So pulling out a little bit, a little higher level, what will you focus your finite time on? Are you going to focus it on making money? Are you going to focus it on personal relationships? Are you going to spend time in self-reflection? There's no wrong answer here. I would say, though, however, if you just pick any one of those things, you're probably going to be off balance. It probably takes a bit of everything. You got to decide what you're going to spend your time on. And once you decide what you're going to spend your time on, you're going to decide how to spend your time. You're going to manage your time, or are you going to manage your energy? Are you going to look at your productivity? How are you going to spend that time? So key takeaways. Time is finite. We can manage our time or we can manage our energy. We may get more done by doing what we're awesome at, 80-20 rule, and constant reflection on how you spend your time and what you spend your time on is probably the most important thing you can do. Steve Arendt here. Thanks for spending a little time with me this week. I hope it helped you run your small or medium-sized business and become a better person. Have a great week. We'll see you.